Alrighty guys, let's get going on this quiz 2 review. So for each problem, find the average rate of change. This is the stuff we've been doing for quite a while now. You can use a calculator or not. It doesn't really matter which way you do it. For this one, I'm going to choose not to use a calculator because I don't have one directly in front of me. So first, I'm just going to be finding out what is f of negative 3. That's going to be negative 3 minus 3. We're replacing this x right here with that negative 3. That's going to give us negative 1 over 6. Same exact idea with f of negative 2, 1 over negative 2 minus 3, negative 1 over 5. And then what are we going to do is f of b minus f of a over b minus a. So over negative 2 minus negative 3. Cute little trick with doing fractions. First of all, this is actually just addition for this one because you're minus a negative. Second, you can always simply do this times this, so 6 times 1. In this case, it's going to be negative 6 plus, now 5 times 1 gives you a 5, and you multiply the 2 together on the bottom. 5 times 6 is 30. Negative 2 plus 3 is 1. So finally, negative 6 plus 5 is negative 1. 30 over 1 is just 30. You can't even see what I'm writing. Wonderful. There we go, final answer. Now we on to the actual kind of new stuff. Performing an indicated operation. So first things first, these questions, you kind of start off with similar to distributive property. It's not actually distributive property, but it's similar. The first thing is to rewrite this problem. So this is going to be 4 times f of 2x minus 3 times g of 2x. So again, the 4 is in front there, 3 is in front there, and the 2x goes on the inside of both f and g. To do this now, we have to figure out what is f of 2x before we multiply it by 4. So f of 2x, this x right here is going to become a 2x. And this x right there is also going to become a 2x. Simplifying a little bit, we get 4x squared plus 4x. Then you do exactly the same thing with g. G of 2x means that this particular x is going to become a 2x. So 2x right there gets replaced, and simplifying becomes 4x minus 1. Now we're doing 4 multiplied by this result minus 3 times this result. So maybe just switching up colors for more of our final looking answer here. 4 multiplied by 4x squared plus 4x, and then minus 3 times 4x minus 1. Distributing, adding like terms. By the way, remember, this could be full credit in quite a few classes. I'd probably accept that for full credit on the quiz, but it's a good habit just to get into simplifying it as much as possible. So 16x squared plus 16x minus 12x plus 3. Final answer of 16x squared plus 4x plus 3. Nice. Question number 3, same exact idea. We are going to have to start with what is similar to our distributive property. Starting off with what is similar to distributive property, and that pen is no good. Let's try this one. So we have negative 5 multiplied by g of n squared plus f of n squared. So we will need to find g of n squared and f of n squared before we start the final answer there. So g of n squared, oops, forgot the squared on there, means that this n is going to be replaced with an n squared. And likewise, same with this one for f of n squared. Means that that n is going to be replaced with an n squared. That one's nice and easy because there's only one thing to replace and not a lot of multiplying or anything. Now we need negative 5 times this guy. So negative 5 times 4n squared minus 1 plus, right? It is plus, yep, plus 2n squared minus 4. Again, technically, this could be considered a correct answer, but just to be more perfect with it, good habit to distribute. Negative 20n squared plus 5 plus 2n squared minus 4. Combining like terms, negative 18n squared plus 1. Keep the ball rolling. On to problem number 4. So problem number 4, definition, g of f of 1, this needs to be rewritten as f of 1 like so. After that, we need to figure out the inside first. So we're just going to do the first part, f of 1, that inside, and that's going to be 1 squared plus 2 times 1. That's 1, that's 2, 1 plus 1. 1 plus 2 is 3, sorry. So we figured out what f of 1 is, and now, because this guy is this guy, we can rewrite this answer as g of 3. And for our final answer here, g of 3, that's going to be 2 times 3 plus 1, and that'll give you 7. One thing to note with this one that's hopefully it's a little bit obvious, but when the inside of this was a number, the final answer is a number. But when the inside of this has an x, the final answer is a formula of some kind. Continued on to number 5, exactly the same idea, but this one starts off already written in the quote-unquote correct way for us. So we will yet again start with this g of negative 10. So g of negative 10 is going to be 4 times negative 10 plus 5. That's negative 35. And then we just do h of negative 35. That's going to be 2 times negative 35 minus 2. You are able to still see that, just barely. That's going to be negative 72 when you do the work on that one. Easy peasy. Let's go to the next page. So we have just a couple more to try out and get through. So this one, again, has an x in there. So because it has an x in there, we are going to have to do a little bit of extra work. Looks like this one's got quite a bit of work, actually. So let's hop right into it. So again, lots of extra work on this one because of the cube on there. I made sure on the actual quiz, by the way, that there's not going to be anything this difficult. So you might want to skip this one for your practice. But if you're interested in seeing what the correct answer is, g of negative 2x is going to be negative 2x minus 4. And then f of negative 2x minus 4, because you're taking that result and plugging it into f, that's going to be negative 2x minus 4 cubed minus 3 times negative 2x minus 4 squared. And for real, this is definitely one that you want to kind of just leave there and not do any effort with. But I showed a huge long way of doing this one on the last video, and I'll do that again really quick. It's just a cute trick to it, where you take the very first term, and we'll have negative 8x cubed, and then after that, the first term is squared, and it's going to be 4x squared times this one, so it's going to be negative 16x squared. And then for the third term here, we have this guy squared times this one, so it's going to be 16 times negative 2 is negative 32 with the x. And then finally, the last one cubed is negative 64. And then here we have to do some multiplying by 3. So minus 3 parentheses, and we are doing our trick. Negative 2 squared is 4 squared. And then this one times 2 is going to be negative 16x. And then that one multiplied by itself is plus 16. Finally, we need to distribute this guy. That's going to be negative 12x squared plus 48x minus 48. And combining like terms for our final answer, we have negative 8x cubed. Negative 16x squared minus 12x squared is going to be negative 28x squared. And then after that, we have this minus 32x plus 48x. That's going to be plus 16x. And then minus 64 minus 48. And that's going to be, oh man, I can't do math right now, 112. Really bad look at 112, but that's what it is 112. Now I did say there's also another way to do this. I'm going to set it up on Desmo, so I think I have to pause my video really quick though. Okay, I've unpaused. The main reason I wanted to pause was double check my work, and I did make a mistake on it. So I totally forgot that I had to multiply by 3 on both of these in the middle. My brain just failed and I was doing it too quickly. I do want to remind you that this is probably the correct answer in the end for a lot of this, but because of that, this really should have been negative 48x squared, and this one really should have been negative 96x on there, and that's going to change our final answer here. I also had some plus and minus sign errors, and you end up getting a negative 60 for the x squared, and then minus 144 for this guy. Not even close on the correct one there. I apologize about that, guys. Anyways, again, this is acceptable on my test or quiz. It wouldn't be this hard anyways. But the point that I was trying to make before is I could type all of this into Wolfram Alpha. So I typed in that step right there into Wolfram Alpha, and it double checks that I typed it incorrectly. And it'll give you a bunch of alternate forms. Like this one, super useful for the factoring that we were just talking about today in class, where you have to factor stuff and make it look nice and pretty. And this is the expanded form, the one that I just got to there. It even has those roots that we learned about. How awesome is that? Anyways, just more information for you. Don't necessarily need it. We will transition back over to actually doing the work. A more realistic question is like number 7. So the number 7, this one actually could be on the quiz. So I apologize for even putting one that couldn't be on the quiz review. That's kind of silly of me. But we're going to have to rewrite it first. G of h of x, which means that we're doing g of, and we're plugging in that 3x squared plus 3 in there, because h of x is that negative 3x squared. And last but not least, the final step there is to do plugging in this where the x is. So that's going to be negative 3x squared plus 3 again for a negative 3x squared plus 6. Easy peasy. Now these questions, I actually haven't done any of these in class. This is an interesting little thing that could occur if your teacher is maybe a little bit mean, maybe just not the best teacher, but they're putting a question that you've never seen before on the quiz. So we haven't done one of these in class, but here's the thinking for it, and here how you could go through it. So it says find f and g so that h of x equals f of g of x. Neither function can be the identity function f of x. So the idea is you want to figure out which one of these is the inside and which one of these is the outside. So you're trying to figure out which one's on the inside, which one's on the outside. I think this one's actually nice and easy. G of x, the inside, is square root of x plus 1. And f of x is the outside function. It's whatever that is, and then all to the 4th power. The idea is if I plug this number into here, this function into here, I'll get that answer. Please note there are an infinite number of correct answers to this problem. So if you didn't get this, that's fine. You got something different. For this one, the inside function here, g of x, is going to be the square root of x plus 3, and f of x will be 5 to that power. So the idea is you're taking that inside. If you plugged it into there, you get that answer. Nice. Continue on with the next problem. Find the inverse. This we did practice a bunch. So just because we are able to, I'm going to do some of these with the quote-unquote English method and some of them with the by hand method. For this one, I think the English method is appropriate. So what are we doing first? We are multiplying by negative 4, and then afterwards we're going to divide by 3. So instead, to find h inverse of n, we're going to go backwards from that. So we're going to multiply by 3, and then we're going to divide by negative 4. And that's it. That's all you got to worry about. Very, very quick. So it's the complete backwards version of this, where you multiply by negative 4 and divided by 3, so the going backwards instead. This was the going forwards. The going backwards would be multiplying by 3 and dividing by negative 4. This one over here, I'll just choose arbitrarily to do it by hand. So for the by hand method, I'm going to rewrite this as y equals, and then that 5th root of negative n minus 1 divided by 2. Replace all of the y's with x's, or in this case, they're n's. So we have that 5th root of negative y minus 1 divided by 2. And we have to solve this equation. You might not remember from previous years how to get rid of this 5th root, but it's pretty easy. You just raise both sides to the power of 5. So you raise both sides to the power of 5 to get n to the 5th power is negative y minus 1 divided by 2. Multiply both sides by 2. Add 1 to both sides. I'm running out of room, so I'm going to go to the right. Adding 1 to both sides, we end up with 2n to the 5th plus 1 is equal to negative y. Finally, move the negative to the other side. Negative 2 into the fifth minus 1 is equal to y. For the correct notation, f inverse of n, negative 2 n to the fifth minus 1. There we go. Not too shabby. Continuing on to this backside, finding the inverse of this one. This one does involve a little bit of a trick when you're solving the algebra by hand. So here we go. We're going to go ahead, again, replace that with a y. Oh, and the English for this one is not easy either, so I'm just going to do this version instead. 2 over y minus 2 plus 1. To solve this one, your first step, you want to subtract the 1 over. And the key here is knowing an algebra trick. The algebra trick to solving a question like this is knowing that you can, anything that is currently of the form A equals B over C, you can rewrite as C equals B over A. If you want to go over exactly why, feel free to come in after school. I'll definitely go over it with you. You get y minus 2 is 2 over x minus 1. And then you simply add 2 to both sides and write it in the correct notation. G inverse of x is equal to 2 plus 2 over x minus 1. We're almost done. The last 2 questions prove that these guys are inverses of each other. So this is definitely a question that'll be on the quiz, but I put one of the easy ones. This is an easy, this is a hard on there. So to prove that they are inverses of each other, you need to prove that g of f of x and f of g of x, so I'm going to write this down, f of g of x has to equal g of f of x has to equal x for all of these. In this case, I guess we have n's. I'm going to use x's instead. So first of all, g of f of x for this first one is going to be g of negative 2n minus 10, negative 2x minus 10, sorry. We're using x's instead of n's. Then you're going to plug that negative 2x minus 10 right there. So we have negative 5 equals negative 5 minus 1/2 times negative 2x minus 10. Distribute that negative 1/2. Negative 1/2 times negative 2 is positive 1, so we get positive x. Negative 1/2 times negative 10, well, that's positive 5. And guess what? Negative 5 plus 5 cancels out, and you just get x. So there we go. We have that guy. And now we have to do the other one. We instead do g of f of x. Nope, we just did that. Whoops. We need f of g of x all the way around. F of g of x. So f of g of x is going to be f of negative 5 minus 1 over 2x. And that's going to be equal to negative 2. And we're taking this n right there and we're replacing it with negative 5 minus 1/2 x. Minus 10, that's going to give you 10, negative 2 times negative 1/2 is positive 1, minus 10, and sure enough, you get x. Check mark is given. I'm going to go ahead, give you guys permission to cross off 14. It's a little bit too much extra effort for this type of stuff, just kind of like that other one with the cube. Don't think it's worth your time. If you really want to go over it with me, come by after school. We'll work on it together. But I'm calling it quits for this video. Have a wonderful rest of your day and peace out. Good luck on this quiz.